Hello and welcome back to the 14th episode of this series. It's 2038 and we have just completed the summer window. I realise it's been a while since the last video, but we are back with this one. A long pre-season, but a very successful unbeaten pre-season with only the final fixture against P. Ferreira. I'm not sure who that is, but they are a top-flight Portuguese team that was a draw. And then we didn't start the Premier League season too well with defeats away at Fulham and home to Everton. But then the draw at Sunderland before the 4-0 win over Norwich has turned things around. We've had two good Carabao Cup wins as well. I'm not sure we've had the draw for the fourth round yet, so it'll be interesting to see who we get in that. But not too bad a start. And if I take you to the Premier League, you will see that we are 12th, mid-table. I'm ambitiously hoping that we might push towards Europe this season, and I'm hoping we're not going to end up with anything like a relegation battle. So, if I take you to our recruitment over the summer just gone, we'll do the outgoings. Actually, let's go back to the end of last season. And if we sort this by date, I will first show you the players that came in. So, Nikolai Bartel from Derby is a centre-back, a Danish centre-back. He has come in as third choice, but may well take one of the starting spots fairly soon. Christian Jajak has also come in as a defensive midfielder, a player with a lot of potential, as has Siepka, a Polish goalkeeper who is now our second choice and has played fairly regularly since he has come in. And the big signing really was Ondrej Junger, a Czech defensive midfielder who's come in and playing regularly. So those were the moves that we made at the end of last season. Were there any outgoings at the end of last season? Yeah, Judson Backhouse has gone out for 9 million. A young player that was involved fairly, kind of came in, disappeared again, played a little bit. I spent a lot of time out on loan. He played 12 games for us in the Championship a few years ago, but he has now gone permanently to Derby for 9 million. Someone whose potential didn't really live up to what I was hoping it would. And then the other outgoings at the start of this window, if I sort it by fee, first of all, we got 4 out on loan. Jude Dobbs, Rafael Gonzalez, who you'll see has come in. Verdean is one who's come in and then gone back out, as is Sam Rendell. So all young players that I sent out on loan, a few players that went on frees, more players that have gone out on loan. Cameron Cooper, Solisi Mbele has gone out. Ben Stannard, we've seen a little bit of in previous seasons. Gelani, Ings, and Birch, all young players that have gone out on loan. Then we cleared out some of the young players that haven't made the cut, like Duffy and Briceño. Scott Reed out on loan. Ryder was another young player that didn't really make the cut, or whose potential had dropped off. Roxham, MacArthur, Sherritt Eddy, and Issa, all for a decent profit. Great Holder, who's a player that had been around for a while, joins Issa at Chesterfield. Asensio was a player that we bought in who didn't really come up to the level, as was Yahui. And then we made quite a bit of money to Schalke, who bought 3 of our players, 3 young defenders whose potential had dropped off slightly, and they were quite good bids in Blank, Martin, and Stalianiopoulos. Then the incomings, 3 frees. João Rego, an experienced attacking midfielder from Portugal. Amo Amiel has come in, again an experienced attacking midfielder from LOSC. And then from Arcaran Cisneros has come in from them, who is an Ecuadorian who I tried to loan out and couldn't, so I actually will move him back now into the first team. And then the 2 big signings really, Seyi has come in for 35 million to play at right back, and then Rafael Gonzalez has come in and then gone out on loan, as you saw a minute ago. So in terms of where that leaves us with our setup, not a great start in terms of injuries, as you can see, and we're still using those 2 different setups, the more attacking and the more defensive setups. I'll show you how we look in the more defensive setup, and that's with Rego out on that side. So you'll see the star ratings are looking pretty good. So Alberto remained in goal, new right back Seyi, Pavlychuk and Byfield, the 2 centre backs, and Kurt keeps his place at the moment at left back. Younger goes in there with Beardmore, and then the 2 new wingers either side of Bassani, with Yildirim remaining up front. quite a small squad this year. We had to clear up quite a few players to get the money to be able to spend. Our transfer revenue retained has been 30% and actually a little bit low at the start of the season. So this is where we are, but you'll see we've kept around a lot of players with a lot of potential ability who will hopefully develop as the season goes on. And then there's a few old heads Elliot Anderson I've kept around to see us through this season, as I have with Ross Wright. Jans has had quite a good start actually, and in fact you'll see quite a few of the reserve players have started well because they played in that successful start to the Carabao Cup. So that's where we are at the end of the summer window, and I'll be back at the end of the January window with some more updates. So a fairly short update at the end of the January window. No incomings, didn't feel the need to bring anyone in because the season is going reasonably well. But we have said goodbye to a few players. Two on loan, Nichols and Wilson. Ben Stannard is a Nigerian guy that had been around for a while. Now 20, his potential had dropped off, and we had an offer of $5.5 million, so I let him go to Derby. And then DC Answer, who actually was having a really good season, coming off the bench when we needed him, but again, for a 33-year-old to raise $8 million, all of which was profit, we couldn't really say no. And if I give you a quick update on our performance in terms of the league, it's been an incredibly bizarre fixture schedule. We were absolutely flying, playing the likes of Norwich, Leeds, Coventry, Bournemouth, Southampton, even the Chelsea away and Ipswich at home game. And then we had a run of Liverpool, Manchester United. Obviously we beat Derby, but then Liverpool again, Spurs, beat Brighton, lost to Man City, lost to Arsenal, lost to Newcastle, and then we've been back on this really good run. Now we're not playing the big teams again. So if we can get another win at Derby, you wouldn't expect us to get much out of the Liverpool or Spurs game. But again, there's a couple more to target here before a really difficult run in, and hopefully we won't need to get much to achieve our goals on the final day of the season at Ipswich. Premier League table-wise, we are here, currently in 9th. It feels to me that you've got Manchester United, Everton, Liverpool, Spurs, Arsenal that are a lot better. You can also probably include Man City in that, a lot better than the rest. And then we're about the same level as Fulham, Newcastle, Brighton, Chelsea and Sunderland before it drops off again towards the bottom of the table. But I'll be back with another update at the end of the season where hopefully we keep pushing up the table towards those European places. Hello, and I bring you back slightly early because we have reached the most significant game in the club's history. I realise from your screen you can't actually see what it is, but we're in the FA Cup final. While that's gone on the background, I'll show you very quickly the quite remarkable run that we had. The FA Cup's been a little bit weird in this save, but if I take you back to the 5th round, a win over Man City was a real success. We then beat another Premier League team in Brighton before overcoming Spurs on penalties, and you've seen all the way through how weak the rest of the draw has been. We have ended up with Birmingham City of the Championship in the final. As you can probably imagine, I have no way now of going back to the actual game, so you've missed the first goal, but hopefully now I can show you the replay. This is definitely a game that still needs some work. What's amazing is that it's not Beardmore, is it? Surely not Beardmore in the final. No, Beardmore created it through Younger and then out to the winger Bassani to put us 1-0 up. Well, no, we should win this game. We finished mid-table in the Premier League. Birmingham City are a mid-table championship team. But they had been, I noticed, on a really good run of form coming into this game, whereas our form hadn't been quite so good. The reason I pointed out Beardmore, as I'm sure you're aware by this point in the save, is that he came through our youth intake when we were in League 2 in the very first season, and now he is there anchoring our midfield in an FA Cup final at Wembley. So a good start. I cannot believe how well Beardmore is playing. He's just hit the bar. Is that a penalty? No, it doesn't look like it. Can we win it? That looked a little bit unlucky. But everything going well so far. Obviously the other big thing here is that we could, if we can get across the line here, having started really well, find ourselves playing in the it would be the Europa League if we can win this next season, which is something we haven't quite been able to do based on our Premier League finishes. So this would be a massive opportunity, and we certainly started well. My only concern is that in big games like this, if you don't get the second goal, if you don't actually pull ahead on the scoreboard, you can quite quickly find that you get pegged back. Apologies if you can hear the fan in the background. I'm recording this on the hottest day of the year so far at the end of May in the UK. But all is going well in this game so far. 1-0 up at half time. So it's been a really quiet second half. I've continued in this season operating two tactics. The one that we started in the more defensive 4-3-3, where we try and soak up pressure, and then we've moved, as I often do in games where we're dominating, into the more aggressive 4-2-3-1. But we might actually sneak over the line in a second half of no highlights here. You see Elliot Anderson has come on as one of those players that actually predates the save in terms of his appearances with the Rovers. Probably should have gone back to shutting up shop given the situation, but Rego has won it back and we are on the break. Anderson scored some really good goals in this FA Cup run, a couple of real screamers against some of the better teams when I was rotating, and that was a chance to win it, but I'm not going to take the risk. I'm going to tuck us in, and that actually is that. FA Cup winners. We'd had a really rough set of luck in the FA Cup in this save so far. So to be able to get across the line here, it's been a really weird kind of run of the FA Cup. I'll show you when we come out of this game. There's been some really bizarre winners. It's good to see our new signing, our right back Seve, lifting the trophy rather than any of the established captains of the club. But FA Cup winners, Europa League for next season, so I'm probably going to have to strengthen a little bit, but there are quite a few players coming in. I will take you very briefly through the end of season stuff without having to cut now. If I show you the past winners page, you'll just see how, well, you can see there just how bizarre the FA Cup has been in this save. Going back to the early years, so a Brentford win, that wasn't out of the ordinary. Cardiff won it from the Championship in 31, and then Derby from the Championship in, or they might have been a lower Premier League team at that point, I think. Fulham beat us, I think, in the semi-final in 36-37, and then QPR won it from the Championship last year, and then we've overcome Birmingham. So I'm not really sure what's happened for this to be such a bizarre run of FA Cup winners, but what I will do to wrap up this video is take you to the squad page, and if I take you to the selection info, I can give you a rundown of how we have performed. And it's been Byfield again, who was exceptional at the back, and Charlie Ince, who's begun to establish himself on that left-hand side of the attacking 2 or 3 or 4, however we play. Him or Flego is going to be a bit of a battle next season because they've both had good seasons. It could be that one moves on if we get a big offer. I think there has been some interest in Flego, so we'll have to wait and see. In fact, Flego is wanted by quite a few clubs there. If we get a big Saudi offer, that might be something I'd consider. Yildirim is something we need to think about as well, because he's had another good season with 18 goals. But it's whether we try and go for a big signing up front, and whether we keep him, whether we move him on to do that. And look at Elliot Anderson, retiring, having won the FA Cup. An amazing career, obviously, a lot of it with us. I don't think he quite reached the peaks. In fact, did he play for England? Yeah, five England caps. I'm sure he's going to do better than that in real life. But after his big move to Liverpool in 34-35, we picked him up on a free. And he's been fairly reliable for us after that incredible loan spell back, 18 years ago, when he was just 18. So that's how the squad has performed. I'll just quickly show you the table as well. Ipswich overtook us on the final day of the Premier League season, as you can see on the right there. But I did make 11 changes to that to make sure we were ready to go for the FA Cup. But on the whole, that has been a pretty successful season, you would have to say. So thank you very much for watching. Our first crack at Europe next episode for the 39-40 season, and I'll be back for the next one soon.